Okay. Hey, everybody. This is Dan Reeser from the Karura and Akala team, and I'm joined here by Alexei from Interlay and Kintsugi. Alexei, do you want to get us started and kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the conversation?
Hey, thanks for having me. So I'm Alexei. I'm the co-founder and, well, wear the CEO hat at Interlay. I'm actually a computer scientist by trade, did a lot of research on blockchain since 2015-16, focusing mainly on security and scaling, and then kind of took a deep dive into interoperability, met my current co-founder Dom, and we built into BTC together. So awesome. That's me.
And you guys met where? I think you did your PhD in computer science, and is that where you guys met, or what's the kind of origin story of Interlay?
So I was doing research in doing my bachelor's and master's, and then just by accident, I did an internship in London at the same lab, and there was a position open. So I decided, well, why not? A PhD back then seemed the best way to, really focus on the material. And Dom did the same thing. So he came from PwC and also started doing a PhD. And we were like the only two people in this huge empty office. So yeah, started working together basically.
Awesome. Cool. And then can you maybe get into just a little background and introduction to Interlay and Kintsugi and what you guys are building, and then maybe we can just dive deeper into the mechanics of that and everything.
Sure. So I mean, we started looking into interoperability and kind of the idea of, well, what can you do with Bitcoin, and what it would be cool if we could get Bitcoin on the blockchains, but we don't want to do this, in a trusted manner. And that's how the Xclaim protocol was born, that now underpins both BTC and Kinsugi. And then we were approached, we published the paper, top tier conference, and built a POC for Ethereum, and we were approached by the Web3 Foundation, who were quite keen to get a trustless version of Bitcoin to Polkadot. And basically then we said, okay, let's do it. We set up Interlay and started working with Web3. So that was, that was in 2020. So that was December 2020. And we wrote a specification, built a POC, and then really decided, okay, this works. We actually now built a POC, it works in practice, let's do a full project. And then essentially we built Interlay from 2 people to 12 today. So I mean, initially it was called Polka BTC because we really were just focusing on the product itself, not much on branding and building a product. And later we decided, well, actually, this is a really cool thing. We want to do this full time. We don't want to just, do consultancies. And hence we rebranded to Into BTC. And also the idea is that Into BTC, while living on Polkadots, because of Polkadot's interoperable nature, will also be available on Ethereum, on Cosmos, and other chains. So it makes sense to call it Into BTC because essentially our goal is for this bit conversion to become the main bit conversion in DeFi. And well, I think quite a few people from the community followed the developments. We initially were talking about a common good slot and whether that makes sense. And we had a few discussions with councils and a community call that was super helpful. But we came to the realization that actually by design, it does not make much sense. And the reason is that as opposed, for example, to a bridge between Polkadot and Ethereum, where you have 2 smart contracts and you have relayers who just send information, but they have no risk. So there's nobody actually at risk if that system, if something goes wrong, at least not the operators. In our system on Bitcoin, you don't have smart contracts. So that's why we have the decentralized network of vaults who secure the BTC locked on the Bitcoin side. And they put down collateral. Basically, they lock collateral, and it's similar to stablecoin designs. They lock collateral to secure the Bitcoin that they hold locked. And this is the insurance that the user gets. So we spoke to a lot of potential vaults and came to the realization that these operators, they won't want to give away control over all the system parameters, because if an external council were to change parameters, it impacts them. So they definitely want to have a say. Plus, because we have this collateral requirement, especially initially, bootstrapping is super important. And if we ever want to be able to compete with centralized versions like WBTC, we really need this initial bootstrapping. We really need to be able to be self-sustained, have funding to fund liquidity pools, to fund developer teams to build on top of this. And so in the end, we came to the realization, okay, it has to be a token. I actually lost a bet to Dominic internally about this. And yeah, so that's why we said, okay, let's do it. We designed a new token model. I think it's quite cool. It's quite interesting. We combined Uniswap and also curved aspects and quite a few other things. And well, to launch now, of course, we have to go to crowd loans, and we're going to Kusama.
Can we back up a little bit real quick?
Sure.
There might be people who don't fully understand the common good concept. Maybe I can explain that really quick and then go back. So on Kusama and on Polkadot, there's parachain slots that you need to earn in order to launch on the network. And there's this concept of a common good, which is essentially the Polkadot or Kusama Governance Council they approve essentially a free slot for any parachain or bridge to launch, because it's a common good that serves the needs of everyone on the network, just like infrastructure in a city, like a gas line or electricity. This is a common good that everyone in that community shares. So this is what Alexei was saying, or you were saying, you guys were considering, but what I'm understanding is that because of the nature of how Interlay is kind of structured, you have all these vaults who are running their vaults and contributing to decentralizing this bridge. And I think you were saying they were seeing like reliance on the Kusama Council or on the Polkadot Council as a risk to them, because if the Kusama Council gave this slot to you guys for free, then they would be the ones kind of determining the future of Interlay versus having a governance token. They would actually become the ones who are voting on the future of Interlay and being able to determine kind of the path forward. Is that right?
Yeah. So okay. That's, yeah, more or less. So the thing is that it's not that Kusama Council will do something bad. No, that's not the idea. But no, they are busy, right? You have an entire ecosystem to manage, and we have if our system is similar to MakerDAO, we have exchange rate, like collateral ceilings. We need to adjust parameters regularly, system updates. And even these minor things require, of course, an approval by governance because we are on chain. And the chances of getting council to constantly be ready and upgrade the system and so on is quite low. In addition, by having this governance token, you give other networks, other applications, the opportunity to also take a stake in the system if they're highly reliant on it. So if you say there is an app that builds on top of this, right, or some stable coin, for example, Karura would use KBTC as collateral. Long term, if this becomes a largest collateral position, you might consider, well, I actually want to have a say in the system just to be sure that if there is an attempt of a hostile governance takeover, that we can interfere, because it would impact us as well. And I think that's the beauty of DeFi in general, because you can have a stake in different systems and vote also in the protocols that you integrate with.
Exactly. Yeah, and one thing that we can even explore, that Karura is going to have its own treasury, and this treasury can hold native assets, KAR, the KAR token, as well as foreign assets like KSM. But there's something we could also, through governance and voting through the community, we could also look to have the Karura treasury or this DAO take a stake in Kinsugi, so that there's alignment there. So just one small example of what you're talking about. So cool. I think that's helpful for background for people. And you were about to get into, I think, more detail around the bridge system.
Yeah.
Cool.
So before diving into the tech, so why, like, the Karura deployment is basically the same code base as into BTC. The difference, the idea is that we'll follow Parity's approach with Kusama and Polkadot. The Kusama deployment will be 2-3 releases ahead. We'll be testing experimental features, new upgrades. We'll try to lower collateral limits, introduce new cool things that we've been working on in the background. And we can do this without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and months on auditing every single line. We test to make sure it's robust, and then we actually allow the users to take it for a spin. Now, Kinsugi is kind of the name. The idea, it comes from the Japanese tradition that, well, you embrace the imperfect. And we really like the name because Kusama is meant to be chaotic, but it's still brilliant. And we kind of envision that by putting together these pieces, you really have a nice ecosystem, a really strong ecosystem that sets an example, I think, for all DeFi projects across all chains, because I think Kusama is the first kind of network that actually has value. And I'm pretty sure we'll see this in other systems as well. Now, taking a look at Interlay and into BTC, how the bridge works is quite interesting, but it's actually pretty straightforward for users. I like to use a new analogy since recently. If you're familiar with stablecoins, specifically USD stablecoins, you will know we have USDT, which promises to hold dollars in the bank and then print USDT. And then we have DAI, which is on-chain, fully transparent, and you actually always see how much collateral is locked. Basically, into BTC and Kinsugi are the DAI of wrapped Bitcoin. And then WBTC and REN and others resemble more USDT because it's more centralized. They have the control over the Bitcoin. And in theory, these BTC can also be lost, and then the system would break completely. Whereas in DAI or Kintsugi into BTC, you always have the collateral locked on chain. So even if something were to happen to the BTC, you have the value backed up. And this is exactly why this is so much more secure for DeFi. It follows the same concepts. And also it makes it much more secure to use for protocols. If your protocol were to integrate a wrapped bit conversion, you basically make the choice. Do you trust the centralized versions like a centralized bank, or do you trust a DeFi way where you know that even if something goes wrong, the economic value to back up your protocol is still there? Now, if we go through this step by step, what happens is you as a user come to the system and you say, well, look, I have 1 Bitcoin and I want to bring it to the Kusama ecosystem and want to use it somewhere there. What you do basically is you inform the parachain that you want to mint KBTC, and you are assigned a deposit address. In the background, what we do is we select, or the parachain actually selects a vault for you from the registered set of vaults, and automatically generates a deposit address. Now this happens on chain. I'll skip the details, but it's actually pretty cool. We do on-chain key derivation. And then what you do next is you send Bitcoin to that address. Now, what you know at that point is that this vault has enough collateral locked up in the parachain to ensure you against theft. This means that at any point in time, while the BTC is locked, you know that the vault is basically ensuring you and other users against its own misbehavior. If this vault or any other vault steals, their collateral will automatically be slashed, and then users will be reimbursed. So that means you as a user always know you can always get your BTC back, or you'll, in the worst case scenario, if all vaults steal at the same time, you will be reimbursed in collateral at a beneficial rate of approximately 110%. So you'll actually make a profit.
Is the collateral in BTC?
Sorry, so the collateral is in different assets. So we have 2 forms actually, right? We have Bitcoin physically locked in the Bitcoin blockchain. This is for the one-to-one peg. But in addition, you have the collateral in, for example, KSM, KUSD, or L dots, or LKSM. And it's basically a multi-collateral system where you have different collateral types with ceilings defined by governance. And that makes it quite robust and stable. And it resembles stablecoin designs, basically, but just for Bitcoin.
And eventually, maybe once we get an ETH bridge, it could be backed, but collateralized with ETH as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you can take large assets from different ecosystems and build a pretty stable set. And the cool thing is, and that's why I'm quite excited about also integrating with, for example, LKSM, we allow, or will governance essentially will hopefully allow liquid staking assets as collateral. And this means that vaults who lock up collateral, they don't only earn from the into BTC or Kinsugi BTC protocol, but they in addition already are earning in parallel on their locked collateral. So they earn the staking rewards from LDOT plus what they would get on Interlay.
Yeah, and just to kind of expand on LKSM, because we haven't introduced that yet. So
yeah.
Liquid KSM is a product that my team's building. So from the Karura side, this is a liquid receipt token that you get after staking through Karura. So you can stake Kusama. Your KSM is staked and kind of locked and earning whatever it is, around 15%. And then you get in return this LKSM token that's liquid, as it says, and that can be used within Karura, but it can also be transferred cross-chain to Kintsugi. And then, like you're saying, potentially, if it's approved by governance, used as a collateral for the vault. So I guess my question there would be, so if I'm a vault, I'm interested in using LKSM because I'm basically like double earning from this. I'm earning staking from my underlying KSM, and then earning in a different way through the vault, what am I earning as a vault operator? Am I earning in KBTC, or what's the token that I'm earning through that process?
So taking a step back, so let's look at a normal vault operator that just
Yeah.
logs, let's say KSM, and that's it, right? So if you log as a vault operator, so important thing, anyone can become a vault. Like you just download the software, it's open source, you run it, you can modify it if you want to, as long as it still kind of meets the rules. And then you lock up collateral. That's it. That's the only requirements you have. You need the Bitcoin address, but that's it. So as a normal vault, what you earn in is you earn fees from the Into BTC or KBTC bridge and actual the wrap Bitcoin. So you actually have exposure to Bitcoin directly as well. The fees you earn are in KBTC or Into BTC. In addition, you also earn rewards in the native token. So in the Kusama side, it will be Kint, the native token of Kinsugi. And this gives you on one hand a reward for your risk, plus it allows you then to participate in governance. Now, let's assume you're a power user and you also now lock up LKSM, which already is earning staking rewards in Kusama, which are, I think, at 14.5% right now per APY per year. So basically, you take an asset where you already earn per year, basically, it gives you interest, and you take that, put it into our system as collateral, and suddenly now you get Bitcoin, you get the native Kintsugi token, and you earn KSM in parallel. And I think that's a pretty interesting construction because it gives you exposure to three assets, which, well, arguably to some extent are connected, but you have Bitcoin, you have Kinsugi, and you have Kusama. And I think that's quite, actually, I think it's quite unique.
Yeah, we have a similar concept in our DEX right now, because we've got like stablecoin. People are earning from stablecoin minting fees. People are earning liquidity mining rewards, and then of course earning trading fees on that pair. So we started calling it a triple dip. So it's kind of the same concept for you guys. It's a triple dip between liquid KSM, so you're earning KSM staking rewards, Kint, the governance token, and then KBTC. So that's really interesting.
You can even take it a step further. Let's say I want to mint KBTC, but I also want to run my own vault. So what you basically can do is you run your own vaults, you lock the collateral, because that's meant to ensure others who receive the KBTC from you. You don't pay fees and you don't earn KBTC fees in this case, but what you basically get, well, as we said before, you get rewards in Kint, you get rewards from the liquid staking, and then you can take the KBTC mint yourself. You, for example, put down as collateral for KUSD, and you start earning additional fees there. So there's a lot of possibilities and strategies that you can optimize. I'm really curious what users will come up with, because again, that's the great thing about DeFi and being composable.
Yeah, cross-chain DeFi. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see these use cases come to life. So I guess, do you want to continue on? I know I kind of cut you off with some questions.
I think we covered like the core concepts of the bridge. So the most important thing is users always know they can get their BTC back, or they will be reimbursed in collateral. The same holds for protocols like, for example, Karura. And as mentioned in the very beginning, protocols kind of make when you make the choice with which collaterals, for example, you integrate as a stablecoin, this of course determines your risk profile. And then there's this big difference again between custodial assets, which are locked with one big custodial or a multi-sig, and assets like KBTC or Into BTC, which are backed up by on-chain collateral, where you know that even if these vaults all decide together to steal, you'll still have the collateral value to back up the KBTC that are locked in, for example, the stable coins. So in the end, the value is still there, and the hit on the price and the protocol that's using KBTC will be marginal, as compared, for example, if you take WBTC and then BitGo gets shut down, which is unlikely, but you never know, right? So it gets shut down, the Bitcoiner sees that it's hacked. I mean, WBTC will devalue completely because it's a fractional reserve at that point.
Yeah. So if I'm holding, just trying to understand the risk minimization here. So the collaterals it's multi-collateral. So that, like any given vault that I could be minting KUSD or KBTC from, if they did steal the underlying BTC, then they're left with this collateral, but that collateral is not BTC. So would I, as the user, be like reimbursed or sent like those collaterals, or would that be kind of converted to BTC, or how would
So
that
you as a
work?
user wouldn't actually notice.
Okay.
So you as a user, you're shielded from this because it's all pooled together. So when you mint KBTC, you don't care which vault you minted with, and you don't. It doesn't have to be the same vault that you redeem with. It's completely shielded. It's fungible.
Okay.
What happens is the system flags, hey, look, BTC was stolen. We now have less BTC backing than we should. It liquidates that vault fully. So it takes that vault collateral and puts it into this pool that we have to rebalance the system. And now we trigger a so-called burn event. And the burn event is there to rebalance the system, specifically the ratio of BTC, which is now lower, to KBTC, which is higher because, well, you know, some BTC was stolen. But this ratio here is backed up by collateral. So what happens is arbitrage traders can now come in and basically burn KBTC against this collateral, which is more, it's at least 110%, or likely if it's theft, maybe even higher, and they burn or essentially exchange KBTC against the collateral. And they make a profit from that. And then they can just go ahead and either buy BTC again, or they just say, okay, cool, I made profit and I'm out. And this way you rebalance the system. And it's very similar to MakerDAO's keepers, right? Pretty similar concept. Basically, if a position is under collateralized, or in this case, theft happens, it's liquidated, and system is rebalanced by people who do arbitrage and make a profit from that. Mm-hmm. As an end user, you will typically not see this happening.
Okay. And not to get too technical, but keepers are done with I think off-chain like APIs, and there's a little bit of risk there as well. Is your system done on-chain, or is there any off-chain element?
So the thing is, you need someone to say, okay, I want to burn KBTC for that collateral. We can, and that's a very interesting use case. And for example, why we're also adding the EVM for people then to build pools. You can have an insurance pool where basically you lock up some of your KBTC for exactly this reason. If there's a liquidation, you're already there on chain to just swipe in and take the profits by rebalancing. But in principle, some off-chain user has to come along and say, hey, yes, I want to kind of do this burn event. In our UI, you will get a special button for that, and we'll flag, hey, look, you have this opportunity now to actually rebalance the system, make a profit. Or in theory, I think mid-long term, we'll see contracts that just sit there and wait for exactly this to happen.
Yeah, couldn't somebody write a bot or something to watch for those events?
Absolutely. You could even write an off-chain worker in theory. We could also build that in. If users would like a product like that, where they can basically say, okay, I'm going to put in some amount of KBTC just for this insurance scenario and just have it there, the off-chain worker just keeps checking, that is also an option.
Okay. Cool. Anything else you want to add on the way the vaults work, or do you want to, we can maybe get into the Kinsugi crowd loan and get into that topic?
I think we covered everything. Like as mentioned, the vault itself is just a piece of software. It's a client. The most important thing is the collateral and that the Bitcoin is locked. Mm-hmm. So I think we covered everything.
The one other thing I was thinking of earlier, you mentioned so the 3 ways that these vaults can earn. The one was it was KBTC fees. So I guess could you walk through quickly the flow for a Bitcoin user and how they would get from, let's say, for example, from Bitcoin to the Karura DEX. So like that flow, because that fee, like what that means is there's got to be some fee in the beginning, right? When someone's actually wrapping their BTC and getting onto Interlay and into the Polkadot kind of universe. Is that how it works?
So I can say how it works right now, and then I can also describe how it will work in the midterm, because there's a lot of UX improvements that we're actually working on. Right now, what you need to do is you go to the UI, you need some KSM, and basically you say, okay, I want to mint KBTC, I will lock my Bitcoin, and then you have them on the Kinsugi parachain. And then basically you will make an XCM transfer. Now, what we'll do pretty much from the start is hide this second transfer and basically allow you to choose, okay, where you come to our platform and we'll ask you, where do you want to mint your KBTC to? And you can say, hey, look, I want to go to Karura. There you go. And basically what we do in the background is the parachain will mint and then also do the XCM transfer to Karura directly. And then even further, of course, you might not want to acquire KSM right away. I mean, you will
Exactly.
need it in the end to trade on Karura potentially. But you're already bringing in an asset, you're bringing in KBTC, and you could potentially use that to pay fees. So what we definitely want to do is allow you to pay fees in Bitcoin directly. So we charge the fees right now just because it's simpler to do it in KBTC from the wrapped asset, but we could do it directly from the Bitcoin. So you say, I'm bringing in one Bitcoin, and then when I lock it, I get 0.9999 KBTC. But the fees were paid directly in Bitcoin to the vault, and I didn't have to pay transaction fees because that's the beauty of Substrate. We can customize the weights, and we can make a successful minting transaction for free, for example, to users. And then we say, well, you paid fees in BTC. It is something we're working on. It's not as easy to do, but we definitely see this as a major improvement that can be made to UX, because then you just have Bitcoin, you get into BTC or KBTC in this case, and you use that to pay all your fees. So you don't need a second asset.
Okay. So as a BTC user, I would go to your kind of web app. I would, in the midterm, I would be able to wrap it, send it directly to Karura. And then I would go to the apps.karura.network site. And in my wallet on Karura, the KBTC would be there. And then if I wanted to, for example, mint KUSD, I could just go mint KUSD with my KBTC as collateral. And I'm sure there'll be KBTC pairs on the exchange on the DEX as well. So cool. Yeah, that'll be fun.
And you can take it a step further, actually. And I think that's already, if we look at the Mandala Akala testnet, I think it's still called Polka BTC on that. But what you can do is basically, because we have this, we built a pretty solid, well-documented TypeScript library, which allows anyone to interact with the Kinsugi and InterBTC parachains. So what you can do is you can build a custom integration. So if you say, well, there's so many users who we bring KBTC to Karura, well, Karura might say, well, actually, we'll just build in a small dialog, which allows you to say, hey, I want to mint KBTC, and you can do directly from the Karura UI. And I think that's already a first POC of that is actually already on testnet. And that's the beauty of it, because you can hide everything from the user, which parachain talks to which other parachain in the background. And I think that's where we're heading, because when you go to a bank nowadays, you don't care how they do it in the background. You just care about, okay, I have my app and that's it. And I think we can achieve the same thing on parachain and blockchain level. So users don't really care where the BTC, whether it was in the Kintsugi parachain or Karura parachain, you have it in the app, and that's what you actually care about.
That's brilliant. Awesome. Well, let's get into the crowd loan. So I guess, so today's August 27th, and we're coming up to the September 1st beginning of the 6th parachain auction on Kusama. So we'll be getting to 5 weeks in a row of these 1 week auctions. So by the end of 5 weeks, we'll be at 10 live parachains, and hopefully there's many of us hoping that Kinsugi can get one of these slots so that we can get all this stuff coming to reality and getting some wrapped Bitcoin on Kusama. So do you want to go into the details around kind of the incentivization model for getting people to support you guys in your crowd loan, and anything else that you want to add to this?
Absolutely. So we have not yet released the token economics white paper. And the reason is we're going to drop this later today, pretty much shortly after this call. We spent quite some time working out the details and also figuring out new ways of how can we incentivize crowd loan contributors. So on a high level, the token model is pretty straightforward in the sense that 70% goes to the community. And from that 70%, we have 30% that go to vaults, because they are the core maintainers of the system. Anyone can become a vault, so you can start earning block rewards basically from securing BTC. And the rest basically is part of the on-chain treasury. Now, the on-chain treasury, of course, governance can decide what to do with it, but for the crowd loans, for the initial ones, what we want to do is we want to allocate between 12 and 14% of the overall supply. Now, if we take a closer look at the distribution, what happens is we have a core airdrop. This will be airdropped to the participants of the crowd loan, and we have a max cap of 200,000 KSM as a target. And from that, you'll be able to calculate the exact minimum Kint per KSM locked reward. That's at the beginning, at the base one, it's actually between 3.7 and 4 Kint per KSM. Really depends on the exact details. And then we have 3 kind of additional pools. First one being pretty straightforward, an early bonus pool. If you're very early on to contribute and support the crowd and help it to take a lead, there's an additional 5% bonus on your KSM contribution in Kint. Then we have a referral system, which means that, again, the referral and the referee both will be receiving 5% on top of their contribution. And again, there is a predefined pool for that. And last but not least, we came up with something new. We call this a success airdrop or success pool. The name is not very creative, but it actually describes exactly what it is. We have specific targets for the KSM crowd loan, right? We know that max for our priority will be 200,000. That's the maximum. I don't think we'll need that much, but that's what we said. Now, if we reach 30,000 KSM locked, everybody who already contributed or will contribute, they receive an additional reward pool. So basically, we distribute a pool across all participants. So that basically unlocks. Then if we continue getting more support and it goes higher and passes 60,000 KSM, a second reward pool is unlocked, and that's again distributed to everyone, current and future contributors. And then last but not least, if we really manage to surpass 100,000 KSM, then the last bid is released. And essentially this, under this scheme, there's another 100,000 Kint, that is 1% of the network, that are distributed to everyone that's participating in the crowd loan. And this basically means that together as a community, we work together and try to make this a success. And everybody has these targets, and you actually can see like, hey, cool, we made it. And now everybody is actually rewarded in the sense that, well, we got a step closer to winning this.
Yeah, I could see you guys sitting at like 99,000 and everyone's like, somebody go. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Cool. Well, this makes sense to me. So we've got the ratio, your referral bonus, success bonus. So assuming you guys can get one of these slots, what does rollout and launch look like for you guys?
So, I mean, we've been observing, of course, what with Karura, Moon River, and so on have been doing, and we generally like the approach of this slow rollout. Kusama, it is still all experimental. So what our plan is to start with the rollout process where we make sure that the thing is live, it produces blocks, of course. And then we start rolling out, we'll have initially a pseudo, and we'll pretty much pretty soon enable the core functionalities. We'll activate BTC relay, so the system that monitors Bitcoin and make sure that we're up to sync. And then we'll start slowly enabling minting and redeeming with lower kind of bounds. So we won't, of course, say, well, you can throw in a few million of BTC right away. No, we want to do this in a step-by-step process, make sure that the system is stable. We want to experiment with different collateral ceilings, also propose to governance, then, okay, well, let's introduce a second collateral and see how that works. And how users then behave, and basically be a step-by-step rollout, I believe, over 2 months approximately, until we have like this unlimited kind of amount of BTC that you can bring into the system. As for governance, we want to activate that, of course, as soon as possible. So the moment we see that the system is stable, Intellay will basically flick the switch, and then everybody, basically then the control goes to the network. And that essentially, when this switch happens, that's actually when the network goes live, because before that it doesn't really do anything. We check that it produces blocks, it's stable, flip the switch, and that's it. It's fully controlled by Kint holders. Cool.
Well, how should people be following along with the launch, the crowd loan?
So of course, follow us on Twitter, join our Discord and Telegram channels. We can share afterwards. And we will, of course, you have a lot of platforms where you can follow crowd loan progress. On our Intellay website, we'll have a Kinsugi tab, which takes you to a dedicated page where you can then contribute to the crowd loan. You'll see the stats, you'll see the referral leaderboard, and you can also read up in more detail about the token economy, the technicalities, and how it will work. As for wallet support, of course, it will work from Polkadot.js, and we're working to make sure that we're supported by other wallets like Fearless, Math, Polkadot Poker Wallet. Still work in progress. So let's see if we manage to get everything ramped up. We're doing right now in 2 weeks what typically takes 2 months, but I think we're nearly there.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time. I know I definitely learned a lot. Sorry for the sneezes. And yeah, appreciate the time. I think everyone's going to learn quite a bit from this conversation. So thanks, Alexei.
Amazing. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yep.